Keberi, I beg your pardon, and she's the CEO of Toto News, which is a website, and she's a social entrepreneur. And this social enterprise actually focuses on children. But first of all, here she is. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. I'm very fine.
Thank you so much for coming on short notice, despite it being a Friday. And
Thank you.
right, right. So basically, talk to us about Toto News.
So Toto News is a social enterprise. So we focus on children. So we started about 2 years ago out of the need that there are no platforms or media houses that cover children's stories. So because of that need, we started looking for how can we be able to make children visible? How can we be able to amplify children's voices? And as we grew, we started like a Twitter account, and then we moved to having a blog, into a website. Now we have, we can somehow, a media house where we actually go out there and look for stories about children. We cover children's stories. We do live for children, and then out of that need, you also felt like children need to speak for themselves. You know, because as you as an anchor or myself cannot tell children's stories the way children can be able to tell themselves. Absolutely. So out of that, we started training children. So we have trained, like now we have 20 children who have trained as journalists, and we have another cohort of about 30 who we are going to train in August. But the application is still open, so we probably get a little bit more who we are training as journalists to be able to speak for themselves. They go out there and look for stories. They anchor their own stories. They write. You know, two of them are actually right now developing a whole documentary. And for us, it's very, very exciting when children give you ideas and something that you have never thought about. And number 3 is, as we worked online and digital space, you find there's so much data. There's so much data on children, and we started asking ourselves, what do people do with this data? Like every day we get tagged on a story about a child who's been abused, or a child who is missing, or a child who needs to be rescued from this. And we start thinking, how can we be able to use this data for good? Yes, it's our responsibility to distribute this data, to distribute this information, but how can we use it to be able to stop some of these vices, or to be able to help other children? So from there, we have developed, we are just developing a component on artificial intelligence and machine learning, where we are using this data, both online data like the big data, but also data that is collected by Department of Children's Services, Childline, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, to be able to develop solutions that can be able to help children. Yeah.
Right. This space is really big and it's growing, and it's interesting that you would choose specifically to focus on children. Yeah. Now, what is really the inspiration behind that, and how broad is this particular area?
Mm-hmm. So my inspiration is, I tell guys I'm called to, you know, people are called to be pastors, others are called to be teachers. For me, I'm called to work with children. I've been working with children since before I finished uni, and I try running away and it come back. And then so before I started in Toto News, it's something consistent. I'll call media houses like you guys and to come and cover this story. I think it's an important thing for you guys to do this particular, and they will come, but that thing will not appear anywhere. And it started bugging me. I was like, why am I bothering us? Why don't you start something? Yes, and because it's my passion, why don't I just do it myself and start doing, instead of calling people who are not going to do it, let's do it and voice children voices. We can be able to provide this content even to other media houses who would require. So, and for me, and also they believe that Africa is the way it is because of the way we bring up our children. If you're able to change the way we bring up our children from early childhood, like from before the children are born, how can you be able to influence that? We'd be able to influence the development. Like I know this show is about business. You know, how are you able to change the way children think from a very young age about entrepreneurship? How are you able to change the way they think about business and learning? How can you be able to influence from that age? If you're able to influence from that age, we'll be able to influence the story and the story of Africa for the better. Yeah.
Right, right. And you know, this being, you know, focused on children and especially centered around this, has it been really challenging building a business along this particular area and platform, and even getting those opportunities to getting the parents perhaps to bring the children on board for the training, getting, for example, now you do data, the science and the research behind it. Really, has it been challenging and actually growing in this particular space?
Yeah, it's been challenging because, one, children don't sell, quote unquote. Especially when you're talking about, people think, when you're talking about children, especially when you're
approaching corporates, the first thing they ask you, do you want us to come and take placards and put them outside our company? Because they think when you're talking about children, it's activism, it's charity, it's stuff like that. But they forget that actually children affect your bottom line. Okay? At the end of the day, if I'm working for you and my child is sick at home,
right,
I will not be productive. I will be thinking about my child back home, and
Absolutely.
and that will affect your bottom line at the end of the day. So if I don't have if I'm pregnant and I'm not able to get that particular care, I will miss some days out of work, and that will affect your bottom line. So children is part of the whole business ecosystem.
Absolutely.
And it affects everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Talk to me about financing this social enterprise. I mean, you find that 70%, 75% actually of those who are social entrepreneurs, they fund their enterprises with their own money, and it becomes really difficult. But then how have you really been able to consistently stay in the market and relevant for 2 years now and even growing forward?
So yes, I started with my own. I started with my phone, a very, very old Motorola phone, and it's being consistent and focused. That's the goal. Consistent and creating that trust. Because people would want to associate with your brand if they trust you and you're being consistent for a very, very long time. You know, because as social entrepreneur, it's very, very hard to say children, children, children. But if you stick at it for the longest, people start trusting you and they'll come back to you because by the 1 year ago you used to talk and you have not changed the same. Okay, I think now we can trust this brand because you are saying the same
You're staying
thing. Consistently, and don't be weighed, because if we have been weighed, people have told us, you know what, if you change your this for commercial ability and we are going to bring you this big brand to come and advertise with you, don't move from your focus until you have the vision is strong. You know, because sometimes you lose the vision of your company at the very young stage. So
Right.
it is good to be very focused and to be very consistent in what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the return on investment. Say, for example, you got started in this business and it is centered around children. And as we say, children don't sell, just to, so to speak. So how do you really track, you know, the money that comes in and, you know, is it worth it? How do you track that?
So it's worth it. Like now I've said that people have trusted our brand, and we have people approaching us, telling us, are you able guys to be able to run for us this campaign? Are you able to do for us this documentary? Are you able to do this for us? And because of that, they have been able to come back, and we get money from that. Some people, they say, okay, we love your job, but it's not along what we do. We can be able to support. We can be able to support you. So because of that, we get a funding from such. So the return on investment is the fact that we can see that more there's increase in like in the digital media, people talking about children. So that's for us is our impact.
And it's interesting that you've talked about social media. Talk to me about the marketing aspect of it, like how you, in the beginning you mentioned that you only started on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram, and it's still really a big place to utilize that space. So currently, what are some of the marketing techniques and strategies that you employ?
So again, consistency. So not changing your focus. You know, you're not moving from. So people know, like, we are focused on children and everything. If you talk about child health, we are working on child health. If you talk about early childhood, we are talking about early childhood. If you're talking about child participation, child protection, everything, or you're talking about children entertainment, you find all that content in there. So with that, you're able to sell yourself as the go-to place for children. So if you need any content about children, you have to go. So you sell yourself, and so we do boost here and there, like on Facebook and Instagram, and at Twitter we have not been able to boost, but on Facebook and Instagram we do boost, and on YouTube. So we do boost those pages, but it's basically changing your content and trying to be the trend and to be current, and not just staying focusing on your brand.
On your brand, what kind of support would you need in order to actually scale out?
Yeah, funding. Yeah, we'd want to have a beautiful studio like this, especially because of our kids. And so if we can get like funding for production, funding to be able to put up like a proper studio, because our studio right now is a makeshift one. You just use it when we need it. So so if you can be able to to get funding to be able to scale up, to get a studio, to be able to have, our focus is to be able to have a journalist in every county. And because we are hoping, someone told me, think global. As much as you're in Kenya, think global.
Right.
So to be able to have, in Eastern Africa, at least to have 1 or 2 journalists who are able to give us stories on children on a weekly basis. So to be able to look as if we are covering children's stories globally, not just the Kenyan or Nairobi.
Right.
Yeah.
You're a mom,
Yes.
and for that matter, you mentioned earlier on a single mom,
Yeah.
and you're an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Talk to me about that and really how it's been coming along across the years.
Yeah, so you can see I'm in a t-shirt. I'm actually running from a school event. So because I work with children, but my children, I can't serve other children if I'm not serving my own children. And that's, you have to be able to balance.
Right.
So one thing I've learned is to train my children to be able to know what I'm doing. Like now they thought I'm coming to my office. They know I'm going to the office. I'm just going to a studio.
Right.
So they know what I do. They know, if you ask them, how does mommy work? They will tell you, mommy works at Mtotonis. And they will also, what stories are we doing this week? Where am I going? So I've been able to balance and teach them. So I don't hide anything from them about what I'm doing, and they know, like, what time of this year does mommy doesn't have money, and why the money is back. Mommy has money, but it's not her money, it's money for the company. Because it's as a mom, especially as a mom entrepreneur, being able to separate money, your own money, and money for the company is very difficult. Your children can't go hungry when your bank account is full of money. So you just need to be able to balance and tell your children, there's money for mommy and there's money for Mtoto News. So they don't ask, why do they take an Uber and us we are taking a matatu? And
Right.
so you have to be able to explain why they are doing that and us you're doing this. Yeah.
What would you say is your greatest revenue income source? Like, who would you say is your biggest target market and your biggest audience?
So our biggest audience are people who work with children. Actually, the other day we did metrics, and like on Facebook, our biggest people who come to, not followers or friends, people who come and view our content are people between the age of 13 and 21 years old. And for us, that was very, very exciting. Those are the majority of people who, even on our website, 13 to 21-year-olds, those ones are the ones who come to our website a lot to get content. But our greatest, like, people who give us revenue are NGO. A shout out to, am I allowed?
Sure, go for it.
So like Children Investment Fund Foundation, World Vision, Save the Children Plan International, the Department of Children's Services, those ones are very, very supportive. They've bought into our vision, and they support us, like monetary, supporting us and giving us money for our work.
All right. So here you talked of data science and machine learning and artificial intelligence.
Yes.
How is really the tech industry, and
Yes.
What really is being done in order to ensure that the children learn more and more and the right way and the right means are actually applied when you're training these children?
So we first teaching such children like basic coding, like not like heavy coding, just basic, like Scratch. Scratch is just a simple program that helps children to develop cartoons, and something that they can be able to relate to. So we start with those basic ones, and then you look at those ones who are interested in getting to deeper. So and then you gradually upgrade their coding capability and their course to something more stronger. So like now at the end of June we have like we partnered with some guys called Teens in AI to have a hackathon where teens 13 to 18-year-olds are going to be in KU to develop solutions for children. And some of the data they're using data from Department of Children's Services and Childline Kenya. So to be able to develop, and these are kids, they'll be taught basic coding and to be able to, because coding is one thing, but coming up with a solution, which is most artificial intelligence, is more of logic, thinking what is the problem here that we need able to solve. And then from when you already know this is the problem, and then you code the problem. So that's what we are, even in our journalists in class, we don't teach them how to just report story. What is the problem? And as you are reporting it, what is the solution? Because at the end of the day, you don't want to report or to code just for the sake of coding. You want to come up with a solution that is going to solve a problem that is already existing.
Yes. Right. And what about the new curriculum? I mean, how are you really incorporating it, or are you joining in on the actual training?
So for us, we are not education per se. We are more of extra curriculum. And why I love the CBC is because it's very child focused, it's child centered, and it's helping children to be able to think for themselves, so that if a child is very good in art, they're not forced to do mathematics. If a child, because I've seen children who are brilliant mathematicians, but give them something to draw, they cannot even hold a pencil.
Right.
Okay, and the other way. So for me, I support the CBC, and I am hoping the government is going to be able to roll it, but to not just CBC. There should be a CBC for Nairobi and a CBC for Turkana. This is because the resources are different. You cannot, a child who is under a roof, Manyata, will not have the same capabilities with a child who is under a 5-level classroom with a screen, a touch screen kind of thing. So there should be CBCs should be different for different counties and different regions. Yes.
Earlier on, you actually talked about the coding and teaching simple and basic types of coding, but still, how important is it for a child to be learning such skills?
So coding is, I always tell my team, coding is the next thing after typing. So in the next 5 years, if you don't know how to code, you'll be irrelevant, because everything you'll be forced to code. So coding should not be like a fancy thing. It should be the way we were taught. Probably me, I was taught how to write. When I was, I don't want to whatever my age, when I was, I just immediately after high school, we were being forced to go to school and do packages, computer packages. So I hated them, and actually I never attended one. But one of the greatest regret is that I didn't do C++, which everybody was doing. That's the same thing here. If your child does not know how to code, they will be relevant in the next 5 years.
In the next 5 years.
So,
that's the future.
That's the future, because everything you'll be forced to code. Probably you want to be able to type something, but to type something or to develop something, you'll be forced to code. It's the same. It will be the same as typing. It will be the same as writing. It's the same as Word or Excel sheets or whatever. But it will be part of you. So you will need to know how to code. It's not for techie people, but it will be for everyone.
Right. Perhaps maybe for the final question, now you've been training the children. What's the future? I mean, they're going to grow up eventually and then move on to the next step. So as a social enterprise, what is it that you're really doing to ensure that, first of all, they apply everything that they're doing, they get the opportunities that they're looking for, and as an enterprise, you're also growing, like the future of this?
So for our training is, it's 5 days, and then after that, we mentor them for 3 months. So during the mentorship, we give them a platform where they can be able to publish their stories. If it's written, videos, or whatever, we give them that platform where they can be able to publish within 3 months, and they're working with part of our team to be able to hone their skills. And then also give them opportunities like to come on TV, to go and address public people, or like the other day they were doing emceeing in a public event. So we give them those opportunities. And after 3 months, if they wish to continue working with us, we tell them, okay, you can continue working with us. If you don't want, it is fine. You can leave. And so with every cohort we do.
And then because children specialize on different things, so we were able to specialize. This one is very good in writing. We start working on that, and we have a whole page where children are able to publish for themselves.
Right. And perhaps now, because we're out of time actually, any parting shots that you can actually share with us regarding being a social entrepreneur and actually going into this particular line of children and growing your business, if this is a line that you want to do, and also not just it being a business, it being a passion, because judging from the way you're actually talking about it, it's coming from a different place.
So for me is, I've met people who ask me, how did you start? How can I want to start something, but I don't know how to start. The answer is just start. Okay, like not Nike, the way they say just do it, just start. Just start. Start from where you are. Don't look at how much money you don't have, because when you start looking at the impossibilities, you'll not be able to do it. Start with if you want to start sewing, or you want to start a garment factory, don't look for the garment, how many machines you have. Start by sewing with your own hands. And with time, you'll have all those machines that you need. But the need is taking that first step to start doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much actually for your time. And we've
so
had
much,
quite a few
Lucy.
insights there from Miss Jennifer Kaberi. And that's all the time I had with you for today. You've been watching The Day's Counter, and my name is Lucy Riley. Do stay with us here at TV47.